Good morning. Thank you, Maggie. I don't know if I have loads of information. I thought about that on the way up. What if I only had 2 slides to show you? But I do have more than 2. Again, my name is Rodney Sutter. I'm a program director of therapeutic studies at the SWOG Data Operations Center in Seattle. Again, it's great to see this big of a turnout. I think the last few times I've spoke, the room's been maybe half to 3/4 the way full. So I guess it's a good thing that I've gotten a little bit used to speaking in front of larger crowds. So I'd like to start out by thanking the Hope Foundation. At the last group meeting, at the very tail end of that, I announced that we had received a travel opportunity funded by Hope to send 20 SWOG CRAs to this group meeting. They were selected based on their applications and if they had a lot of involvement in the cleanup for S777. And so Celgene also added funding for 4 to 5 more individuals with a maximum of $1,500 per award. Again, with this turnout, I thought maybe more than 20 got this travel opportunity. But as far as a future initiative, we haven't discussed that with Hope yet. We kind of hope to keep that discussion going. So if there are future opportunities for you to apply for this, we will keep you posted. So the common toxicity criteria for adverse event reporting was recently updated to version 5 in November of 2017, and we've sent out some announcements as far as how SWOG has been implementing that so far. We started with SAE reporting via CTEP errors, and effective this month, actually, all your SAE reporting will be done using version 5 with the exceptions of these 3 studies listed here. Regular adverse event reporting. New trials will start using version 5 effective next month, and then any of our active trials will convert some of them to version 5 by the end of July, and those include 1505, 1612, and 1619, and any other trials will continue utilizing version 4. Here is a summary of what's different and what they updated between 4 and 5. Keep an eye on any of the future protocol revisions for those other studies as they're implemented. And then if you have any questions, you can find more information on the CTEP website, and Carrie Williams has agreed to be our contact here if you have questions internally. So rate study migrations. This is a word that we commonly use at the SDMC. You may not be as familiar with it, but whenever there's an updated or new form added to an active trial, it involves a study migration on the back end at the Statistical Center. So up to this point, we've pushed these out at random when they've come up. Your study and forms were still accessible, and you probably haven't even noticed anything that has occurred. That is, however, until recently during one of our migrations, a CRA was submitting a form at the exact same time the migration occurred, and it caused a series of problems that took a while to unravel. So when we contacted metadata about this, they reminded us that we should be locking down a study when we do a migration, and we just haven't exercised that in the past. So starting with 1605, we added a note to notify you for a study that has an upcoming scheduled rave downtime. We are looking into this to still have minimal impact for you. They'll be planned in ahead. We're looking to do them later in the day or weekends if possible. Some migrations, don't take very much time at all, and so you won't even notice them. If it is a larger study or has more patients involved and more forms, then it will probably be pushed to the weekend. But do let us know if it causes a problem. I know that these notifications in Rave, they show up at the top, and they may not be as noticeable, especially if you're in a hurry to get to your form that you want to update, but do start paying attention to those. At the last group meeting, I also talked about some of our legacy studies that we are converting over to Rave. These are studies that were activated prior to the use of metadata Rave around 2012. Many of these were closed, but we still have a lot that are open to follow up. Let's see, we started with S1011, and that was changed over just a few months ago, and so far we haven't heard that there's been a problem with this, but what we did is all of these, 5 forms listed here, the follow-up notice of death, consent, withdrawal, loss to follow-up, and late effects. Those will be reported in Rave. Anything prior to that will still be available in the CRA workbench if you need to make amendments to those forms, but you won't be able to make them in the CRA workbench moving forward. So with the release of 1011 that was successful, the next set of studies are listed here, starting with S0016, 0033, 0221, 9921, and 0307. Also, at the last group meeting, the Board of Governors approved our updated Policy 33 involving the expectation and IPR criteria. Just as a reminder, the summary of what was proposed and what was approved for changing is expanding the initial forms to include all baseline forms, specimens, and source documents, consolidating the follow-up criteria for both on and off measures and renaming that into a vital status update, and then including post-baseline forms, reports, or other protocol-specific document that has an outstanding expectation in the last 13 months, and specimen submissions we're including post-baseline specimens for which an expectation has been posted. So one change that we made to the expectation report, overall the format looks the same, but we did include a column on the far right that identifies which category your form falls into if it's affecting your IPR stats, so hopefully you'll find that helpful. With this change, it goes into effect starting next month. When we first sent out the note, we thought we would give a 3-month grace period, and then we found a few glitches here and there, and so it was extended, so you had a little bit more time. Do let us know if there's something wrong with the report or the IPR with this change, or if you have any other concerns. We've been monitoring that in-house. Phyllis Goodman has been your contact for anything with the IPR report. And one concern that she has noticed lately leading up to us implementing this in May is that there's still a lot of outstanding expectations directly related to specimen submission. And a lot of the expectations are pretty dated. So we're assuming that these are expectations that that they can't be resolved because the site feels that they can't submit it. So as a reminder, if you have a specimen that for whatever reason cannot be submitted, you just go into the specimen tracking system, and on the left side menu, there's a link that says notify that specimen cannot be submitted. You fill out the required information and submit it, and that should resolve your expectation. If it doesn't, if it's still showing up on your report, do give your data coordinator a call and we'll figure out why that's happening. There could be a number of reasons why. It could be that there's a different qualifier that should have been used for the expectation. It could be an internal glitch that we have missed. But at any rate, if some of these are 100, even 200 plus days outstanding, there's no need to wait that long. I'd say if one report goes by and you think that you've already done your job, maybe something crossed between when the report was ran, that's fine. But in the second month, do contact our office and see why it's still outstanding. The SWOG query report. Wanted to point out that it is separate from expectations and IPR. We currently don't have a measure that is involved in your IPR or that will ding you for outstanding queries. However, we are looking for a future component of site performance for this. We do hear from sites once in a while that they're not sure where to find the query report. And so I wanted to remind you that on the reports link on the CRA workbench under expectation IPR, there is a link for query reports that does list out all queries that are that were written for pre-RAVE studies on the CRA workbench and current studies using RAVE. Up to this point, it's pretty much been up to individuals at your site or your head CRAs to access this report and monitor it. We are going to look into initiating a monthly email that will go out to the head CRAs to pass along that summarizes how many outstanding queries there are for your site. So you'll be looking for that probably in the next couple months. So one thing about queries that are different on our report versus the Data Quality Portal, or DQP, is that for the SWOG report, all queries get posted, and the DQP only lists your overdue queries. And those overdue queries are measured on the DQP, calculated from the date they were posted and due within 15 days, where the SWOG query report doesn't currently measure a time frame. As far as what's included on the SWOG query report, you'll get queries from data coordinators and auditors, and DQP has, it includes those, but also has any metadata RAVE system queries and any non-conformant data. You'll access your SWOG query report by the CRA workbench and DQP by CTSU. And as far as which studies are involved, the SWOG query report includes all studies, pre-RAVE and RAVE, and DQP is RAVE only. So with this little table, you're probably wondering, well, why do we have two reports? Why do I have to look at both of them? DQP is helpful if you're looking at things specific to RAVE and that are across all studies that you participate on across groups. As far as SWOG is concerned, we do recommend that you use the SWOG query report on the CRA workbench, just because it will have both pre-RAVE and RAVE studies, and that is what we'll be using when we start using it for site performance. So with that was my last slide. I could take any questions you have. Okay, one other thing that we have been doing the last few meetings is taking up about the first hour of the Oishi Symposium to provide any training opportunities or any details that we find are important that are study specific. And we've heard that it's been well received by this group, so if that continues to be the trend, then we'll keep coming back as long as we're welcome. Do let us know on your feedback forms if there are new ideas that you have that we're not covering that you would like to hear more about. For today's session, we're continuing to focus on some of our validated trials. We have a presentation by Dr. Black. He is the chair for S1605. And then we have some data management and frequently asked questions presentations split up by the two data coordinators that work on those two studies, Joe Sanchez and Sean O'Brien. And then Melissa Pletz, a statistician from the Statistical Center, will talk about the differences in FDA trials from our standard SWOG trials. So, and then after that, they'll have a group Q&A. And we'll have one more presentation that focuses back on S1404, and Crystal from the Data Operations Center will be talking to you about updates of that study so far. So.